Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, South African President Jacob Zuma agrees to pay back some of the cash spent from state coffers to upgrade his private home at Nkandla. He'd originally been defiant over the almost 20 million euros spent on doing up his private pad. Also, a race to save Nigerian heritage. We head to one of the country's two UNESCO World Heritage sites. The kingdom of Sukur was all but destroyed by Boko Haram insurgents. Locals are now doing what they can to restore it to its former glory. And in the name of their father, the children of late Angolan rebel chief Jonas Savimbi take the makers of a popular video game to court, accusing them of portraying him as a brute and a monster. Having previously said that he didn't owe the state any money, South African President Jacob Zuma has agreed to repay some of the 19.7 million euros of public cash controversially used to upgrade one of his private homes. In 2014, a report by the public prosecutor said that Zuma had unduly benefited from the refit of the Nkandla property. The leaders offered the compromise a week before a constitutional hearing on the matter. The refurbishment sparked a political backlash, with the opposition DA and EFF calling for a corruption investigation, and the hashtag #PayBackTheMoney still trending on Twitter. Well, our Jane Flanagan joins us with more about the U-turn. Jane, so what's your take on this? Has Zuma's conscience gotten the better of him?
It would be nice to think so. The news came through very late last night and was quite unexpected, but clearly prompted by next week's appointment at the South Africa's highest court, the Constitutional Court, which was going to have a hearing on whether Zuma should pay back the money for the upgrades on his private residence, the swimming pool, the amphitheatre, the heated chicken coop, the enclosure for his cattle, on all those extras which were added on to his sprawling property, the size of nearly 9 football pitches. And the public prosecutor told him 2 years ago that he should some of that work would be for his own account, but he's absolutely wiggled and avoided for the last 2 years. And now the news has come through that he's now thinking of paying back some of the money. But I don't think it's his conscience that's got the better of him. It is the Constitutional Court next week, which also coincides with the State of the Nation address, and a very much a growing feeling against Jacob Zuma, and a growing sense of outrage in South Africa about it.
So clearly the scandal was extremely unpopular amongst South Africans. Is Zuma's compromise likely to have an impact on the ANC's showing in upcoming municipal elections?
Well, I think South Africa is bracing itself for a really tough year. We've had one of the worst droughts we've ever experienced. The cost of food is about to go up. People are mindful that life for many South Africans really hasn't changed much, or definitely not improved, even though we are now 22 years after the end of apartheid. And I think all these things, plus the Nkandla controversy, are now gathering together to create a growing sense of dissatisfaction with the ANC, and very much a burgeoning popularity for the opposition EFF, led by the maverick leader Julius Malema, who really does appeal to grassroots youth and the disaffected and the unemployed in South Africa, whose number is growing by the day. And people are saying, what has the ANC done for us?
Jane Flanagan, unfortunately, I'm going to have to cut you off there. That's all we have time for. But thank you very much for joining us there on Jacob Zuma's announcement that he's considering paying back some of that money spent on his private residence at Nkandla. Well, in other news, at least one person was reportedly killed and several others wounded in the centre of Bujumbura in grenade blasts on Wednesday. 2 went off near a post office and a third outside the National Bank of Economic Development. The country's seen fatal clashes since last April, when President Pierre Nkurunziza launched his controversial but eventually successful bid for a third term. The African Union had proposed to send in a peacekeeping force, but last Sunday buckled in the face of fierce opposition from the government. One of Nigeria's 2 World Heritage sites is yet to be fully restored after coming under attack by Boko Haram insurgents. Archaeologists are calling on UNESCO to put Sukur on its danger list. Visits from those other than locals are rare. Our correspondents, though, headed out for a look.
The scars of Boko Haram's scorched earth tactics are visible in most towns and villages here, even high up in the mountain kingdom of Sukur. But the people of Sukur have a long history of defending themselves against attacks from below. The stone houses and elevated position have helped protect people here for the past 6 centuries. Slave raiding was rife from the 16 until the 1900s. The Hidi of Sukur recalls a day that Boko Haram tried and failed to raid his kingdom.
On the 12th of December last year, Boko Haram came here and burnt and destroyed all the rooms. The Sukur people later returned and assisted in rebuilding. If a person from Sukur is asked to come and assist, he will not refuse. He will not leave his brother to suffer.
Boko Haram apparently suffered heavy casualties and retreated back down the mountain, but not before setting light to several buildings, including the King's Palace, the primary school and a health centre. Rather than wait for the authorities to repair the damage done a little over a year ago, the people of Sukur came together to rebuild their King's Palace.
All the people of the community have been notified to come out as in mass. That is what they normally do. That is to repair the King's Palace. So the date have been fixed and they finish restore the King's Palace.
The alarm was never raised by UNESCO or the Nigerian authorities about what happened here. While a fragile peace exists, Sukur remains a World Heritage Site in danger of further attacks.
Well, DRC will meet either Ivory Coast or Mali in the African Nations Championships final this weekend. Our Duncan Woodside was pitchside at this afternoon's game with Guinea.
This was a contest which got better as it went on. At the end of 90 minutes, it was 0-0. The Democratic Republic of Congo were the dominant team, but without really threatening much in those first 90 minutes, Guinea effectively came here to play a defensive game. Obviously, the weaker team on paper. Although they had done extremely well to get here in the first place. A very small nation, not much money in their league, and they managed to dispatch Nigeria in the group stages. Now, early in the first period of extra time, the centre forward of Congo, Kalingi, finished a very good move at the near post, dispatching the ball past the keeper with a lunging effort, and it seemed that it would stay 1-0 all the way through until the end of extra time, especially with some of the Congolese players feigning injury quite theatrically every time there was even a hint of a foul by the Guinea players. But in the final minute of the game, on 120 minutes, at the end of extra time, there was a superb goal from Guinea. The ball was put in from just inside the area, to the absolute delight of the small contingent of Guinea fans and also many Rwandans gathered here today. Rwanda and Congo, of course, very much rivals and neighbours. Rwanda hosting the tournament. It then, of course, went to penalties, and on those penalties, Congo eventually triumphed. They won by 5-4 in that penalty shootout. Guinea distraught at the end, but really an excellent effort from them.
Duncan Woodside there for us. Well, virtual reality has caused some very real insult to an Angolan family. The children of former rebel chief Jonas Savimbi have taken the makers of popular video game Call of Duty to court, accusing them of misrepresenting their father.
On the left, the late Angolan rebel chief Jonas Savimbi. On the right, his image in the video game Call of Duty. It's infuriated 3 of his children who live in France. They are suing the publisher Activision for slander. They say that in the game, Savimbi is represented as a wild brute.
Our father cannot be simply described as barbaric. We find that shocking. We have children. We don't want to be associated to that image. We can't accept that. We have the same name as him. We're shocked.
Jonas Savimbi was an Angolan rebel who was murdered in 2002. His death brought an end to one of Africa's bloodiest civil wars. His children's lawyer said Savimbi was also a political leader. She wants the game to be banned in France and is asking for a substantial compensation.
We are asking for €1 million. It may seem like a lot of money, but when you compare that to how much money the company has made selling the game, it's nothing.
The lawyers of the publishers say the game is a work of fiction. They did not wish to answer our questions, but this is what they said in court.
At no point do the children of Jonas Savimbi appear in the game. Only their father does, so we do not see how the children's honour has been tarnished.
The court in Nanterre, just outside Paris, said it would rule on the case at the end of next month.
That's it for now. Thanks very much for joining us.